What's up guys, it's Kristen here today with my Genrethon wrap-up. I just can't believe that Genrethon is already over. It feels like we've been planning for it and building up to it for the longest time, and I cannot say how much we appreciate everybody who got involved in it. I swear when we first started planning it, we were so afraid that nobody would be on board with this and it was just going to be the four of us talking to each other about our books. So it was completely shocking to us how many people were posting their TBR videos and joining us on Twitter and posting Instagram pictures and now all of the wrap-up videos. I cannot say for myself and the other hosts how incredibly grateful we are for you guys. So now on to the books that I managed to read during the Genrethon, and yes, I did stick to my original TBR and I read 6 books from 6 different genres. So we'll start with the first book that I completed during Genrethon, which was A Whole Life by Robert Seethaler. This is a German book and it was translated by Charlotte Collins. This is the story of a man named Edgar who lives his life in the Austrian Alps, and as the title would suggest, it is the story of his entire life from birth to his last dying breath. But as you can see, this is a teeny tiny little book, so you only get these brief snapshots at all of the different points in his life. While I was reading it, I was really enjoying it. The writing is very beautiful. I did feel a connection with Edgar, but I wasn't really understanding what the point of it all was supposed to be, and I just wanted to hear more about his life. You'll get like a chapter about his time in World War II and then another chapter about him meeting his wife. Like I said, they're just incredibly brief snapshots of the things that happened to him, so the whole time reading it I felt like I needed more. Like I was just getting a taste of the book or a synopsis on his life. So immediately after finishing it, I wasn't really wowed by it, but then now I've read some more reviews of it and now I think I understand more what the author was trying to convey, which is the fact that your whole life is important. Every moment that happens, not just the exciting or dramatic ones or things that happen when you're young. And throughout the book there's equal time and attention paid to each of these events, no matter how small or big they were. So I really loved and appreciated that the book was trying to bring that kind of message forward. And next up I read The Crucible by Arthur Miller. This is a play, and I don't know why I have not been reading more plays throughout my life. The couple ones that I have read outside of Shakespeare, of course, I have absolutely loved, and The Crucible was amazing! Also a great pick for a readathon. I got through this in a day or so. Most people know that this is about the Salem witch trials, which Miller was inspired to write about after seeing what was happening with the McCarthy trials in the US in the 1950s, which was when the US government was trying to root out and find all of the communist spies that could have potentially been hiding among them. And Miller really saw the parallels between these events, and it's really interesting though because someone criticized him for making this comparison by saying that communists are obviously real, whereas witches were not. Then Miller argued that it is the same because the people in Salem at the time 100% believed that witches existed. And you know, the events of the Salem witch trials happened over 300 years ago now, and yes, it was a different time, but they weren't aliens. They were still human beings with the same thoughts and feelings that we have today. So the trials are really evidence of what happens when we let our fear of the unknown and hysteria just run rampant. There can be extreme situations. And it's not that difficult to draw parallels to things that are happening still today in 2016. So along with being a great read and just very enjoyable, I think it is a very important point in history, even though it's just a little blip on the radar that happened for a few months. I don't think it's something that people should forget. And of course, this being a readathon, I had to pick up a graphic novel, and I picked up Saga Volume 1 by Brian K. Vaughn and Fiona Staples. Again, I'm pretty late to the party on this one. I'm sure most people know this is a sci-fi, fantasy, space, epic story. It was super quick. I managed to finish it through one of my Twitter sprints. Though I wouldn't say I was completely wowed by it. I enjoyed it and it was very quick, and I think the world building is interesting, but I think I definitely need to keep reading the series and really delve into the world in order to feel more connected to the characters. But overall, very fast-paced, enjoyable, beautiful artwork, which I wish I could show here on camera, but most of it is very mature content. And I finally got around to reading the first book in the Fairyland series by Catherynne and Valente, the girl who circumnavigated Fairyland in a ship of her own making. This is a middle grade novel about a girl girl named September who longs for a life of adventure and gets taken away to Fairyland. The writing in this book is absolutely gorgeous. You feel like you are there in Fairyland and you can picture every little detail. It's so rich and sumptuous that gives you this comfy, cozy feeling. It's like sitting in front of the fireplace in a onesie with a cup of hot chocolate and a million marshmallows on top. Kind of comfort read. It is middle grade, but it's one of the ones that really operates on two different levels. I am obviously picking up on the more adult themes that I'm sure most children would not. They would just enjoy it as a very fun adventure story. So please, if you haven't already, pick this one up, and I'm so excited to continue on with the rest of the series now. And for my memoir read, I finished Night by Elie Wiesel, which is all about his time during the Holocaust. And of course, it being about the Holocaust, it is like a punch in the gut emotional book that I am still trying to recover from. Which is why I've always said that I steer clear of memoirs, because I am a very emotional person and they hit me really hard. But of course, this is such an important story that every person alive needs to know. And it doesn't matter how many times you read about the events of the Holocaust, it is never not going to be shocking and appalling, and you just don't understand how this happened. And I truly don't know how Elie Wiesel managed to survive all of these atrocities and then also go on to live your life. One of the most interesting things reading it though is he talks about how quickly they just all became totally numb and desensitized to what was going on to them, that seeing people murdered in front of them, dying, bodies everywhere became a normal everyday occurrence that he wouldn't even blink an eye at. And then there were a lot of times when the prisoners themselves would turn on each other, and he talks about witnessing a son murder his own father for a piece of bread, and just how this pure animal instinct for survival had to take over, and that was the only way that they could get through it. And obviously I was just mentioning about not forgetting about the Salem witch trials, but of course the Holocaust being one of the worst events that has ever happened in the history of mankind is something that people should never forget. And there are only so many Holocaust survivors left in the world, and eventually there will be none, so it is just that much more important to keep their stories alive. So last but not least, I finished 7 Brief Lessons on Physics by Carlo Rovelli. And it was originally written in Italian, so it was translated by Simon Carnell and Erica Segre. And first up, I just cannot get over how much I love this cover, and it is so itty bitty. It's like a little baby book and super tiny, as the name would suggest. It is very brief lessons on the major advancements that were made in the field of physics in the 20th century. This is definitely meant to be a beginner's guide to physics, and he does a very good job trying to explain everything as simply as possible. So you can only really dumb down quantum mechanics and theories of thermodynamics so much, so I definitely had to concentrate while I was reading it, but it was very informative. You know, I'm not going to be a physicist anytime soon, but it definitely piqued my interest in the field, and it's nice to just dip your toes in it to start. So that is all the books that I read during the week of Genrethon, which seems crazy to me that I read this many books in 1 week, which is obviously though the great thing about readathons. And a lot of people have been asking if we want to do this biannually, and we are definitely considering it. So if we were to do it again in this year, it would be sometime around October. And I would love to hear in the comments down below if maybe you would be interested in doing this again this year. And I would also love to hear, if you did participate during Genrethon, what was your favorite book that you read. So for the millionth time, I'm going to say a huge thank you to everybody who participated. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye!